Zach Wheeler, how does he stack up versus the best 3 years of Hamels and the best 3 years of Roy Halladay? Both pretty damn good pitchers. Now, we did not use 2008 as the start of Cole Hamels' run because it was not the best 3-year run he had here because 2009 kind of sucked for him. He had the World Series hangover, as they say. So here they are side by side for you podcast viewers. We'll put this out on our social media channel so you can take a look at it. But when you just talk about ERA, Roy Halladay takes it with a 2.91 ERA over those 3 years. Zack Wheeler right on his heels with a 3.08 ERA, and Cole Hamels in the middle of those two with a 2.97 ERA. He's right there with Roy Halladay and Cole Hamels in terms of pretty much wins. Slightly less than Roy Halladay, who had 51 wins. Oof. But wins and losses is not a pitcher stat, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I usually don't take that into equation too much in the pitcher conversation. But when you look at the strikeouts, Zack Wheeler has the most, one more than Cole Hamels. WHIP, I think, is the most telling number for a pitcher. And yes, Zack Wheeler has the best WHIP.
That's the money right there. Yeah. Strikeouts and WHIP.
Second fewest walks. Roy Halladay has the fewest walks over that 3-year stretch at 1.4 per 9. Those are three pretty special pitchers in Phillies history.
They really are. And just for Zack Wheeler to even be in that graphic
is amazing.
In between Cole Hamels and Roy Halladay. I mean, you know, looking at those numbers, and I do think wins and losses, not a terrific way to assess a pitcher.
Yeah.
But you can see just by the number of those decisions,
how long he was going.
It's an indicator of how deep Halladay was going into the games. And I would give him, I think I have to give Halladay the edge because of that. 2010, 2011, 17 complete games over those 2 years, 5 complete game shutouts. I mean, and when we were looking at those 3 years combined, you know, that's factoring in 2012 Roy Halladay,
which was not his best,
who posted a 4.49 ERA. So I mean,
to make his numbers after a 4.49 is ridiculous.
So if you just isolate 2010, 2011, you know, among those three guys, you can't go wrong. They're all incredible, but I've never had the confidence in another pitcher on the mound that I've had Roy Halladay was pitching.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. I know in the chat you guys are getting excited and geeked out over the graphic, and again, we'll have to share it on Twitter for everybody, because the fact that Zack Wheeler's in the conversation with, you know, part of the Fantastic Four, and looking at where he matches up with the best, you know, Roy's numbers alone. But I know we were even looking at like Lee, Hamels, you know, all across the board. You look at pitchers that have worn a Phillies jersey. We're talking no hitters, historic moments, World Series, having, as you talk about, going into 7, 8, 9 innings of pitching, and Zack Wheeler is there. It's exciting because that is the confidence. As we talk about an extension for Zack Wheeler, this is exactly why, because Zack Wheeler has cemented himself as one of the best pitchers ever to play for the Phillies. And the numbers that we just see on the screen there back that up. His WHIP and his strikeouts alone, of course, as you mentioned, a little bit different with comparison with the bigger picture, knowing that someone like, you know, Roy was pitching 7, 8, 9 innings. That obviously takes things into perspective, but still right there on the nose with the best.
And that's kind of
our ace.
Just the point of why we did it, because we mentioned yesterday, like, Zack Wheeler's as good as these guys. And I mean, you see it with some of the numbers. He's better than them in some regards. But yeah, Roy Halladay is one of the best pitchers I've ever seen in my life.
I feel like a lot of times, I know we've had this conversation before, people rewrite history because you're comparing what you see now versus what you remember, and you might remember things differently. Now, you're not, listen, Roy Halladay alone, you're not rewriting it and fluffing it. What you saw is what you know. But it's hard to compare across eras and generations and times and careers for that exact reason. But when you look at the numbers, it paints a nice picture for you that, Zack Wheeler's numbers, when we just said it yesterday, people might have been scratching their head like, I don't know if we put him in the category at the top. But when you look at the numbers, without a doubt, he's in that category.
Yeah, and the other thing I didn't realize, like, not that I underappreciated Cole Hamels, but damn.
I know.
That was a really 3 good years
Oh my
too.
God.
And and it's not even including his 2008 in his postseason role.
Yeah, where he was
Exactly.
LCS MVP, World Series MVP. I mean, all three of these guys, honestly, it's not just the incredible careers they had, but the postseason numbers. You got Halladay coming in, throwing a no hitter in the post, a real no hitter, not a Houston Astros no hitter in the postseason.
Yeah,
Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not fair.
You've got Hamels with his incredible run in 2008, and Zack Wheeler. I think at one point, I think it probably still holds. He had the lowest postseason WHIP of all time, not just on the Phillies, of everybody. So these are not only are they incredible, but they also, all three of them seem to have an extra gear.
Yeah, that is wild when you think about. We didn't even include that 2008 season for Hamels.
Hamels is a beast.
Oh my God! But that's the thing, and I know Barbara's making a good point. Outside of Philadelphia, some people don't even really correlate the Phillies with Roy or Cliff the way that we do with Zack. But we internally absolutely do. But when you look at their careers, and I know we talked about this before the show. Not only are we looking at those seasons, but when you look at their entire career for Cole Hamels, for Roy Halladay, some of their best seasons were with the Phillies.
Yeah.
Which is why you absolutely have to, for those outside of Philly, include them as being a Philly.